Every voice. Oh, you. Every voice, sing it out. You have purpose on my life. Oh, you. For me, you waited for me. Just for me. Where would I be if you left me, God? Where would I? If you left me, God, if you left me, God, where would I be? If you left me, God, where would I be? If you left me, God. Patient, you are patient, God. You're patient. You are patient, God. Patient. You are patient. You are amazing grace. How I once was lost.
Well, I'm going to bring the music down. I'd love to stay in the pocket and listen to that music. It's a blessing. It's encouraging. But this morning, we need to transition to talk about something else. My name is Bruce Wall, and you are watching Boston Praise Radio and Boston Black News here on the Boston Praise Radio and TV network. This morning I wanted to talk about Will Smith and Chris Rock and what happened at the Academy Awards over the weekend, and I couldn't make it happen at the 8 o'clock hour, so I decided that I wanted us to talk about it during the 10 o'clock hour, and we were going to have Patty Lee in this segment with her own broadcast, but she's actually not available to talk with us this morning. So I thought that we could spend some time talking about what happened. It's being talked about all over the world, and I am so conflicted with what happened. I am so conflicted with how I feel about Will Smith and Chris Rock and the dynamics that took place at the Academy Awards. Part of it, the feeling conflicted, was that here are two black men, and I've never seen them I've seen them in their movies, but not in a place like an Academy or out for dinner or at a concert where they actually got into a verbal fight or physical fight or a war of words. And I'm sure there were more white people and at the Academy Awards than there were black folk. And what people are taking home from the Academy Awards is not just their Oscar, but watching two black men, one insult a black woman with a joke, and the other black man assaulting the black man. And there's just so many different pieces here because the white commentators, the white news makers, I don't know of one white newsmaker, and I'm sure there may be one or two, but I haven't had the privilege of reading all the stories and watching all of the news this morning about this. But there were so many white journalists, writers, reporters who were actually condemning what Will Smith did and talking about black on black violence. And so I found an article, I'm trying to locate it now, that spoke about this. And I'm actually trying to find it. I actually have it. Here it is. I have it. It's entitled Will Smith, Chris Rock, and the Hypocrisy of Us All. Will Smith, Chris Rock, and the hypocrisy of it all. Janine wrote this. She's a Globe columnist, and she wrote it on yesterday. And I wanted to read it today because it goes to the heart of what I'm feeling about Will Smith and Chris Rock. It goes this way. At the Oscars, in the midst of a slap, we missed the deep pain of how we ignore certain kind of violence. Violence and how we define it is a bit astonishing. It always only the obvious weapon, the war and physical force. Violence is a slap on Hollywood's most sacred stage. It is never the ways in which we can tear people down. It's really recognized as racism, sexism, xenophobia, classism, anti-queer, or oppression of any kind. Violence is only valued in the context of where, when, and who in this nation. We have sympathy when we see bloodied and brutalized white people in the Ukraine, but we overlook the destruction in Haiti and Mexico. Over and over, she says, folk will say our generation, our era, has not seen war on our homeland, as if black neighborhoods have not been ravaged by police and blocks have not been bombed and set aflame by white folk and government alike. Crack ravaged communities of color and was criminalized in the 1980s. But because the opioid epidemic's victims are predominantly white, the narrative is now about rehabilitation and help. This too is violence. We care about missing girls when they are white or approximately to whiteness, but black girls and women remain invisible before they ever disappear. So it comes at no shock that we have trouble understanding the harm done by Jada Pinkett Smith by Chris Rock on Sunday night. Will Smith was wrong, and he apologized. Rock also has one to give. Now, it's my understanding that Will Smith apologized to the Academy when he picked up his Grammy, and he also came out on Monday and apologized to Chris Rock. To the best of my knowledge, there has been no apology from Chris Rock to the Smith family. Those were my comments. Let me continue to read. It was easy for a nation to shame Kanye West for interpreting Taylor Swift and interrupting Taylor Swift and hurting her feelings by crudely stealing the mic and her moment and aggressively declaring the truth. Beyonce had the best video. It is harder for them to understand a black woman's pain. How hard has it been for an actress, a Hollywood beauty, to quietly fight the hurt of losing her hair? What does it mean that it took her daughter's loving nudge and Pinkett Smith's near her 50th birthday to embrace bald as beautiful last summer? We look away from the harm caused by jokes and her looks in front of the industry that cherishes a certain kind of beauty. How black women grow, their hair grows or does not grow out her head has been a consistent battle in this country. So much so, we've had a legislative protection, a new law against hair discrimination. The Crown Act passed in the House just over a week ago. It is a specific kind of violence that debases you on the basis of your hair texture and how you wear it, simultaneously celebrating white women for trying on your styles. It is also complicated for folk to grasp what it felt like for Jada in 2016. She joined the Oscars So White movement, calling the diversity and boycotting the show. Rock hosted, and a black man in front of a largely white audience where every acting nominee was white, called her irrelevant and declared it was a party she wasn't invited to anyway. Humiliating a black woman fighting for equity is not a ha-ha moment. Making fun of a black woman a week after we watched the ambushing of Ketanji Brown Jackson, coming from the man who produced a documentary, Good Hair, examined the ways in which a black woman sees her hair is a bad humor. So often in every space, black women are expected to smile and take the disrespect in favor of everyone else. Abuse, underpaid, and violated while being asked to put democracy on her shoulders. Beyonce opened the show from a Compton tennis court surrounded by black girls and beads, and eventually her daughter dancing in front of her. She sang Be Alive with lines like, I got 1,000,000 miles on me. They want to see how far I'll go. The past was never paved with gold. We worked and built this on our own. It wasn't just for Venus and Serena. It was for black women, for black lives. Black folk and folk of color are so often made to feel as though their pain does not count. Grin and bear it. Suck it up. Shake it off. It's only a joke. I know how often I have had to do that. You swallow the pain again and again until it feels as though you might choke. Few of us can fathom what it's like to be as wealthy as Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. Yet, few of us know what it is to be on the receiving end of massive jokes for years, to have your children and your marriage made mockery of, and few of us know what it's like to be the butt of jokes from someone who knows what fighting words are when he utters them and expected to laugh it off. For Will Smith, on the biggest night of his career, coming out of contentious chapter in his marriage, to watch his wife be disgraced over the hair her disease attacks and attracts, smiles pinch your spirit. When your mouth is twisted up to hide the pain, it doesn't make the slap justified, nor does it make rock right. Since Oscar night, there have been so many yelling over who was right and wrong. There's no winning side. What I know about Jada Smith, she was wrong. Now people are calling for Smith's arrest, for his award to be taken away, comparing him to killers and war criminals. They claim he made all black people look bad. Racism always finds a way. Quote, he could have killed him, Judd Apatow tweeted and deleted overzealously. Murder, an open palm slap. Folk cheered for worse on the basketball courts and football fields. Had it been on a big screen, it would have been called riveting. Apatow, who backed Lena Dunham when she defended Murray Miller against rape allegations by a black woman, she criticized black folk who defended these kind of allegations. Again, what constitutes violence in America is who is the victims, who the victims are. Similarly, grace and second chances depend on the who. Every single time, and even if black people are involved, politics will enter the chat. Much like white folk acted like Janet Jackson's nipple was going to eat their children, there are now some claiming Smith's smack was bad for the kids. There is more violence on cartoons and superhero movies. There is more violence in the economic depravity of those whose schools get funded, which students are over punished, and the perfection we demand of certain folk. There's more violence in teaching a whitewash history of America so that white kids' feelings aren't hurt while anyone else reality is erased. These arguments often come down to protecting someone's comfort, don't they? Comedians want to be rooted in freedoms of speech and good times. I get it. But at what cost and who's paying for it? As we talk about Rock and Smith, the harmless jokes, and what protecting black women does and does not look like, don't forget David Chappelle. Stop closing your eyes to the trans folk, his stand-up targets. Even geniuses like Rock, Chappelle, and Smith, whom we admire, get it wrong sometimes. Trans women of color, mostly black, are being murdered for being who they are. For all the talk we do about stopping hate, we continue to deny this truth. The epidemic of violence against black transgender women and trans women of color is real. Chappelle, in his efforts to talk about white privilege in queer communities, erases the violence. Laughter cannot silence the pain. Comedy is comedy. A free speech is a real thing. But, like Wendy Ray sang, quote, "After laughter comes tears," end of quote. There is a way in which jokes can be wielded as weaponry, a slap across the face, and we all seem to wrestle with when we'll acknowledge this thing. And Janine, who is a writer at the Boston Globe and also a broadcaster here on Boston Praise Radio and TV, I appreciate her perspective. I appreciate what she wrote. And I am struggling to reach some conclusion in my own head, my own heart, regarding who was right, who was wrong. I'm asking myself the question, now, what is the Academy going to do about Will Smith and Chris Rock? Are they going to attempt to take his Grammy away from him? I think it was Whoopi Goldberg, who serves on the Academy in some position, said that it has not been discussed whether they should or should not take away his Grammy, not Academy, his Grammy. I don't think they're going to take his Grammy away, although that would be the ultimate pain, the ultimate slapping of Will Smith is to take the Emmy away. Did I say Emmy? The Oscar. It's an Oscar, right? It's an Oscar that he received, not a Grammy, an Oscar. It would be the ultimate slap in his face to take the Oscar from him. I don't believe they're going to do that, but they're going to do something. They're going to say something. I don't know what they're going to say or how they're going to say it, but they are going to speak. Go ahead, caller. You're live.
Good morning. This is Jamal calling.
Hey, Jamal.
How you doing?
Okay.
I read that article early this morning, actually late last night.
And you know who she is, right?
Of course, I've seen her on your radio show.
Right. I was going to say she looks like Karen. Yeah.
Yeah. And this article is probably the biggest load of bunk I've heard in a while.
Okay. Go ahead.
So not only, in my opinion, was it poorly written and just seemed like a diary journal entry, but it's really grabbing at straws. I mean, how many things can one person lump together that are not associated with this at all?
Right.
And
the latter
part,
in
typical style, this comes down to the emergency, the crisis of all these transgender black women who are getting murdered all over the place.
Right.
Now, you're a big guy in the news, as I am, right? How many times have you heard of that in Boston?
I haven't heard. I was surprised. I was wondering why she was leaning so heavy at the end to bring in all these other factors that are not relevant to what happened.
Well, and it does happen because there was a murder of a transgender. It was actually an activist up here. Used to take people into the home, and in that type of normal scenario, oftentimes you end up getting killed by somebody that you let in your home was trying to help,
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
But so it does happen. But when they make it like no one's paying attention to this epidemic, that's just not true. It's not an epidemic. Okay, so that's first. Does it happen? Yes. Is it sad? Yes. Is it tragic? Is it wrong? Yes. We all agree there. Is it an epidemic? That's just not factual. Now, to the main point of the whole Chris Rock and Will Smith slap, right? What I find disturbing, with all this protection of the black woman. So the appropriate way to protect a black woman, and look, did Chris Rock stand there for 20 minutes and call her the B word? No. Okay, so to me, first of all, the offense wasn't that bad. Was it a joke?
You don't think it warrants what Will did, is what you're saying?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And furthermore, if you flip it, I don't think Will would have done that to a bunch of other people. For instance, people talking about Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle used to be skinny. Apparently, he's been working out. Now he's bigger. Yeah. I don't think Will would have did that to a big guy, or Dion Cole, or the guy Terry Crews. I don't think he would have did that to a lot of people. Certainly wouldn't have done it to a white comedian. If Jerry Seinfeld had said that, he's not smacking Jerry Seinfeld. And then also, too, uncomfortable. Tiffany Haddish had been up there. What if a woman had said it? You can't smack a woman, right?
I would hope not.
Yeah, right. So now here the whole thing is that while we're talking about this protect the black woman, what we all witnessed is a prominent black man get smacked in front of the world. And somehow that's okay. I saw that he issued an apology. So once again, was his joke in poor taste? Certainly. But if we're going to start doing that, when does it stop? And I'm sensitive to this only because, as you know, for the past several years, I've been under attack right here in this city.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
For things that I said, and I haven't even said anything off color. And people think they're going to smack me.
But is it things that you've said or things that people have reported that you said that you didn't say? Which one is it?
It's been a little of both.
Okay.
But either way, none of it warrants a smacking. And then that's the other part. So, for Chris Rock, I wouldn't have taken that. So a bunch of different things would have happened. Either he would have got smacked immediately back. We would have been tussling on the stage.
Yeah, I know. I would. You know something, Jamal? I thought about you during this whole thing. I said to myself, because I've heard you talk about protecting members of your family, that you would do what you had to do to protect your members of your family. But to see two black men at that predominantly white academy going at it on that stage, actually tussling and fighting, that would have really bothered me.
Yeah, but I would have reverted back to my kid thing. He started it. See, so, because, he smacked me, so now my reaction is whatever. So, that's that. Now, the other thing is if Chris Rock is not that type of guy to react physically or whatever, fine.
Right.
Okay. But now I am with the chorus of people that Will Smith should have got arrested. Because that sets a bad precedent, because now you have an assault in that crowded theater. There's probably 1,000 people in the theater, plus the millions that saw it broadcast across the world.
Yeah.
And you could openly slap some. That's still an assault. I don't care if you're Will Smith. I don't care if you're Obama. I mean, come on. Okay, that's a good example, Obama. These people called his wife a gorilla.
Right. Yes.
Think he could just roll through the halls of Congress just smacking everybody?
No, he can't. And again, Chris decided not to file a complaint. As of now, I'm sure Chris is getting advice now as to what he should or should not do, because I don't think they're just going to shake hands.
Not for nothing though, too. I mean, if I punch you in the face, you don't have to press charges. If the police saw it, they don't need you to press charges.
Right, and they're not. The police said as of now. I don't know if they're working on something. They said as of now, they're putting it on Chris Rock. Rock has not filed a complaint. So
right.
It sounds like they're not moving unless Chris moves, and then they'll move.
Yeah, I'll be eager to see what happens after the investigation with the academy and all that. If they're gonna do any punitive stuff, if they will take his Oscar back or whatever. But that's clearly unprecedented, and
What about Polanski, who received a Oscar, and then he had all the sexual things happen around him?
Well, that's just disgusting.
Yeah, but they never pulled his Oscar back. They never said what.
Yeah, but once again, that's we can't account. See, this is just like how things happen all the time, and I don't like all that qualifying. Oh, well, because this happened, because this happened. Look, what happened was wrong. We can't try to relitigate all the wrongs of the universe, right, to compare it to this wrong. Look, this got caught. This should be dealt with. Roman Polanski, in my opinion, he shouldn't even be, he should have been in jail. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that's my whole thing. Yeah, so he should have never been honored as Woody Allen.
Right. Right.
As Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
As there's a long list of these people who've done far more despicable things, of course, than a slap. But that's not what we're talking about right now. Right? So all of those people, yes, they should be punished. They should be in jail in many cases. But right now we're talking about that slap. And that was really wrong and crazy for that man, both of them men in that status in their life.
Right.
For Will particularly, to slap that man right there.
Did you see the expression on Jada's face when the joke was finished?
Yeah, well, also, too, that's another thing why I think it was such a punk move, because Will was laughing at first.
Right, he was laughing. So, how did it change?
Well, because I think what everybody's saying is that when he saw that it bothered his wife, then that's when he reacted. Okay. But see, this is, once again, that to me is a punk move, because I don't need to look at my wife to get her approval of whether or not we're offended or not.
Right.
So if it was that bothersome, first of all, I wouldn't have laughed. Mm-hmm. But he laughed.
Right, he did. He did.
Wholeheartedly, too. It wasn't a chuckle. It was a belly laugh.
Right.
And then minutes later, it's that. But, I mean, it was just really weak. And one thing that I also hate, too, is when a weak man tries to act tough, because nobody in there is believing that Will Smith is tough. And then after, when he sat back to his seat, he did the typical, what I'm going to call the black man voice, that Eddie Murphy used to do. Hey, Pastor Wall, you better not do nothing about that.
Right.
And it's like that tone, and it just doesn't sound real. It sounds forced and fake. And, God knows he's been going through a lot with his own wife. He's been castigated in the media, emasculated by her, and then by the general public. So I know that he probably is not having a good time right now, and his masculinity has been questioned, and I think all those type of things factor in. But once again, he did it to a guy who was significantly smaller than him, and I don't think he would have had that same energy, as the kids say, with anybody else.
Well, one of the things he said, and one of the things that I was feeling, is he's sitting waiting for that award to be given to somebody for the best actor, and he knows that he's one of the nominees, and he just came from filming a picture that's been nominated about a man who, according to the picture, said that he protected his family. And he's been in that role for quite a while, making that movie and now being celebrated. Do you think at all that was working also in his head? The guy that I'm getting the award for protected his family at all costs.
No, I think that's another crazy and lame excuse. And in fact, disrespectful to the man that you're trying to honor, because what did he say then? Now I look like the crazy black father. Okay, so Richard Williams, after all he's done and achieved with his daughters and everything, he's just now got minimized to the crazy black father.
That's how that's how a segment is playing this out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's insult to injury on another black man, where now you've been made to, well, I'm just a crazy black father because I just got through playing Richard Williams, who's a crazy black father. Right. You can't blame me.
Right. Yeah.
That's doubly disrespectful and weak and cowardly.
So again, I didn't watch the Academy, so all I have are the news videos. After Chris was slapped, I found out that I thought he was the host for the entire Oscar event, but he wasn't. He was making a presentation. So, do you know if he made his presentation first and the jokes came later, or he was making the jokes and after he was slapped, he made the presentation? Do you know?
No, as far as I know, after he got slapped, he kept going, and then he went on to the next, tried to go to the next segment. He fumbled a little bit, clearly, because I'm sure he was still in shock.
Yeah.
But, he tried to, as they say, the show must go on. So he tried to do that. But
he carried it well, in my opinion. He carried it well.
Well, once again, it depends on what you say well is. That's not well for me. Right. That's bad. That's bad. You would have gone at him? You would have gone right back at him? No, so, I mean, look, literally, this could have been like a George Burns or Johnny Carson skit. As quickly as he smacked me, I would have just smacked him back. And then as So now what? What are we? We're Abbott and Costello now. What are we doing?
I know.
Yeah. So after that, because after that, there's nothing else to do unless you're going to tussle. Because after that, it's the tussle. All right.
That couldn't have happened. The initial slap. Somebody said to me, someone called me and sent me a text and said, "I know what you would have done. I know that you would have protected your wife." I don't think I would have gotten up in front of all those folk and slapped a man publicly. I would have gone to him afterwards.
Let the punishment fit the crime. Once again.
So what is the punishment?
No, I'm saying, had Chris Rock gone up there and done a super, laden tirade where he's calling her all sorts of B's and H's and all that, then I would understand a little bit more. But that one little joke, it wasn't even a 2-second joke.
Yeah.
That to me was not that big of a deal at all. Like, he really didn't, to me, disrespect Jada like that. And I mean, and worse has been said about both of them. He would just have a long list of people to go
slap.
after.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to say, when you were under attack via video with 2 women attacking you and making lewd remarks about you and your body, you maintained yourself pretty well, and they looked like they were the fools. They looked like they were the base people, not you. You maintained yourself.
And it's difficult here too, because obviously that's men versus women, da. And I just, what those people were saying was just so ridiculous. I was just like, okay, all I'm going to do is, how they say, you keep lying about me, and I'll keep telling the truth about you. So, to me, nothing beats a well-dressed lie except, a butt-naked truth. So I just tell the truth and shame the devil and keep it moving. But obviously, that particular thing, even though later it evolved into threats of physical attack, no one has, as of yet, tried to actually, in real life, put their hands on it. They've talked about it, but they have, as of yet, not attempted to do it in real life, for which I'm thankful, because, your
reaction would not have been, let's say, too likable by people who would have watched it. I know people that have made those negative comments at what they would do to you. But, as you said, fortunately, none of them have really tried to carry it out. It was just a whole lot of talk, or maybe they came to their senses, or maybe someone told them, you better not, because if you do that, you'll also be tangling with me, or tussling with me. Well, this thing is troubling, because I listened to the white media on the national programs, and they said, I know we need to talk about Ukraine, but we have to insert this, and they were all talking about it, and most of them are saying that Will needs to suffer the consequences. As you said, one is the arrest, and the other is having that Oscar taken from him, which I don't think they're going to do.
And don't forget, too, Will is white America's hero. That's white America's darling. He's one of the few black actors who have been able to cross that barrier to, become a leading man viewed in the same vein as like a Tom Cruise or what have you. So on the flip side, if this was a female, it would be much like if Oprah all of a sudden, slapped Whoopi Goldberg or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
People are shocked, because it's also who you are. You're Will Smith. You're squeaky clean all around America guy. So for them, I think that this is really earth shattering. And now, as often happens, they build a hero up, and then something happens that they disapprove of, and now they want to see that hero taken down a peg. So
taking down a peg or taking down, period.
Yeah, either way. I mean, some people are talking about like he's never going to act again. And,
right.
I don't know about that because he makes too much money for them.
I was going to say he has 3 movies in the can, 3 movies that he's working on.
Yeah, he's the cash cow. Now we'll see what they do with the box office. That's where it might happen. So he'll still make the movies, but people might not go see it.
Oh man, just over one night when you're going to receive something you have been striving for all of your acting career, and when he walked up and I saw it, I said, "Oh man, these guys put that together." And I said, but that's a little bit kind of violent. And it wasn't until they started talking about Denzel Washington and Tyler Perry approaching him to calm him down. That's when I said to myself, oh, this was real. I could not fathom that something like this would happen with Will Smith and Chris Rock.
Yeah, it's sad. I just really feel for Chris Rock because, to be slapped like that with all the millions of, he has kids. He has a mama.
Right.
All this type of thing, and that is embarrassing. That's emasculating. So that's real. That's a hard pill to swallow, and I really feel bad for him. As the person who got assaulted.
So you think that Chris Rock comes out of this how? How does he come out of this? What's the perception of Chris Rock now?
Well, to me, first of all, he's taken far more of a beating than he should on that joke. Once again, I just don't think that joke was super severe.
Okay.
And also, too, not for nothing, alopecia, as horrible as it is, or whatever, but it's not like making fun of somebody who's on their deathbed with cancer, okay?
Yeah.
And if we remember, Michael Jackson, he said he had vitiligo, right?
Right.
And people were relentless on him. You see what I mean?
Yeah, cracking. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think that the expectation is a little bit false, and that the reaction is way over the top. So for Chris Rock, I think that hopefully it'll calm down because I don't think that he's the big bad villain in this. He misspoke. It was in poor taste, but it's not. It wasn't that serious in my opinion.
Okay. Well, appreciate your comments. They have been insightful.
I try.
Okay. Okay.
I'll stay tuned. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Peace.
617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. We're talking about Chris Rock and the assault, how he was assaulted by Will Smith. And Jamal is right in his perception that if we basically say that Will Smith was acting in his role of Venus and Serena's dad, who fiercely protected his children, that Will was acting in that role, we could be disparaging Venus and Serena's dad and saying this is who he was. So I hope Will does not say this is what he was thinking, although I've heard it talked about by the media. The stories are going to run on this for quite a while, and I really would like to hear from Chris Rock. I really would like to hear how he was able to maintain his ground and to stand, take that slap, come back with a response, and finish what he had to do, and then sit down. I think I would have walked out. I think I would have just gotten away from that place as quickly as I could, and I would have been fuming, trying to figure out what my response is going to be. The fact that Chris, as of this moment, and I'm sure he's receiving all types of advice as to how he could play this in his own favor. How does he get out from under the joke of Jada Pinkett Smith? How does he resolve that and come out as the person who had dignity after he was slapped in the face? I know many of actors, even some rappers, would not have taken that slap. We would have had a rumble there at the Oscars. There would have been a fight. I would not want to see something like that. That would have really, really troubled me and made me question what is it all about, because there are some white folk who only look at us from that context of the violence, that we can dress up with a tuxedo, put a tie on, but in essence, if push comes to shove, we will resort back to violence. And again, Chris Rock, thanks for not responding in kind and thanks for not engaging, which is similar to what I said about Jamal. Jamal has been verbally, in my opinion, attacked, verbally assailed, called out of his name, and he has, as he said, he has told the truth about people, and that has been his justice by continuing to speak truth rather than going and attacking the person in kind. All of us have emotions and feelings as it relates to members of our family being attacked verbally and hurt. I have this thing called scenario planning. I had somebody make a comment with regards to my wife, and I made a decision that I wasn't going to respond. Some of my children thought that I should have responded, but I made a decision not to respond because I didn't want to escalate something. And people were urging me to say something. And there are times, and I've really forgotten about it since this thing happened with Chris Rock, sometimes I wait until a more opportune time to approach somebody rather than approaching them in the moment when they're upset. I try to approach them at a time when maybe they forgot about what they said, and I bring it back to their remembrance, and maybe that's what I should do in this other instance that happened in my family. I'm Pastor Bruce Wall, and you're listening to a special short segment of the Chris Rock and Will Smith event that happened at the Oscars, and we're going to be reading a lot about what Will Smith did by getting up and walking to Chris Rock and slapping him in the face. I wonder why he slapped over against punching him in his mouth. Did Will, in his brain, when he was sitting there, as Jamal said, he was smiling first, and then when he saw the expression on his wife's face, he got up and went to Chris Rock. Why didn't he punch him in the face versus a slap? I don't know too many black men who would slap somebody over against closing their fist and hitting them right in the face. Did Will have enough? Did he calculate enough to say, if I punch him and knock him out, it's going to be potentially more weight would come on me versus a slap? I can't see Will Smith as a slapping man. So that's something else that I hope that as they talk about this, we're going to learn more about what was going on with Will. And also, I'm waiting to hear from Chris Rock. I'm sure he's going to speak about this. And I understand Chris Rock is going to be in Boston soon for a 4 or 5 night comedy act. And it's going to be interesting to see if he weaves into his act what happened at the Grammys. Again, I'm Pastor Bruce Wall, and I'm going to transition out. We're going to go back to Patty Lee. I wanted to spend a few moments talking about this and hearings from some of you on social media. Also talk about it, and we'll do more with this on Boston Praise Radio TV and Boston Black News. We'll be back with Patty Lee in just a few moments. Stay there. Do not go anywhere. We're coming right back with more on Boston Praise Radio and